The moments following the lioness's careful placement of her cub at the rescue station's doorstep were filled with quiet tension. The ranger stayed hidden just a few feet away, breathing slowly to keep from startling either of them. The cub, small and fragile, made soft, almost imperceptible noises, its tiny body shivering with weakness. The lioness crouched low, her golden eyes scanning the surrounding trees, alert to every movement, every sound. She did not trust easily, and even in this moment of apparent safety, her instinct to protect her child was unyielding. The staff inside the rescue station had begun their morning routine when they noticed a disturbance at the door. Peeking through the window, they saw the cub lying there and the imposing figure of a lioness standing protectively nearby. Their hearts skipped a beat. Encounters with wild predators were always delicate, but the sight of a mother caring for her weak cub was both alarming and deeply moving. They quickly realized that this was no ordinary rescue. It was an extraordinary moment that required patience and understanding. The lioness shifted slightly, nudging the cub gently with her nose. It was a tender gesture, showing her concern without aggression. The cub, sensing the gentle touch, let out a tiny whimper but did not resist. The ranger could see the subtle communication between the two, a bond that needed no words. Each action, each pause was full of meaning. The mother seemed to weigh the risks carefully, measuring the human's intentions without taking her eyes off her child. Inside the station, the team decided to move slowly. They didn't rush to open the door or approach the cub too quickly. Instead, one of them quietly stepped back and allowed the lioness to observe, hoping that time and patience would build trust. The ranger watched closely, feeling a mix of awe and nervousness. Every moment was crucial. The cub's life hung in balance, and the mother's trust was fragile. Any sudden movement could change everything. The lioness's eyes followed every motion inside, her ears flicking at the faintest sounds. She let out a low rumble, a sound that was both a warning and a reassurance. The cub nestled slightly closer to her, and she responded with another gentle nudge. The team remained calm, speaking in low, soft tones. It was a dance of patience and careful observation, where the humans had to prove their intentions through their restraint. Time stretched as the sun climbed higher in the sky, casting warm beams through the canopy. Slowly, the lioness began to relax, lowering her stance slightly but never letting her guard down entirely. She stepped back just enough to give a human space, but her gaze remained sharp, tracking every movement. The ranger could feel the tension easing, replaced by a sense of shared purpose. All involved understood the importance of this delicate interaction. The cub, sensing a moment of calm, began to wiggle slightly, testing its strength. The lioness responded immediately, adjusting her position to offer more support, her soft purr-like growl reassuring the tiny creature. It was a delicate exchange, a silent conversation of instinct and care. The ranger could not help but marvel at the intelligence and emotional depth displayed. Here was a mother, instinctively knowing that help was needed, yet unwilling to abandon her child to uncertainty. Inside the station, the staff prepared a small area with blankets and water, positioning themselves carefully so as not to appear threatening. Their movements were deliberate and slow, demonstrating a calm that might encourage the lioness to step back and allow them to help. Every small action was crucial in building trust, and every pause was a test of patience. The ranger could see the respect in their faces, knowing that this was more than a rescue. It was a partnership with nature, fragile and precious. The lioness seemed to sense the intention behind their careful actions. She stepped a little closer. Her body relaxed just enough to indicate that she was beginning to trust the humans with her cub. She did not approach fully, nor did she let her guard down entirely. Instead, she observed, her golden eyes reflecting both caution and hope. The cub, encouraged by its mother's careful movements, gave a tiny mew, drawing a soft smile from the ranger who watched silently. Minutes turned into what felt like hours, each passing moment bringing a subtle shift in the dynamic. The mother began to allow the humans to move closer, her nudges becoming less frequent, her growls softer. The ranger noted how she maintained a protective circle around her cub while permitting safe intervention. Every careful step forward was met with a corresponding adjustment from the lioness, a balance of trust and vigilance. Eventually, one of the staff members crouched near the cub, extending a hand slowly and softly. The lioness stiffened for a heartbeat, but did not attack. She watched closely, ready to intervene if necessary. The ranger felt a sense of quiet triumph. Trust had begun to form, fragile but present. The cub, sensing the safety of this new environment and the gentleness of the humans, relaxed slightly and allowed the touch. The mother's eyes softened for the first time, a visible acknowledgement that help was now possible. By mid-morning, a careful routine had been established. The lioness would stay just outside, maintaining a watchful eye, while the humans began to provide water and warmth to the cub. Each movement was slow and deliberate, building a bridge between wild instinct and human care. The ranger realized that what was happening was extraordinary, a rare alignment of trust, patience, and the unbreakable bond between mother and child. In the early hours of quiet morning, the forest was still and peaceful, wrapped in a soft, golden light that filtered through the trees. Birds began to stir and sing, their melodies breaking the calm of the dawn. The air smelled fresh and earthy, carrying the hint of water from a nearby river. Among this beauty, a lone figure moved carefully along a narrow dirt path, scanning the area with focused eyes. It was a wildlife ranger, someone who had spent years observing the delicate balance of nature in this part of the world. Each step was cautious, not because of fear, but out of respect for the life that surrounded them. The ranger had been tracking a lion pride that had recently been seen in the area. Reports from locals had mentioned hearing unusual roars and seeing a mother lion with a cub struggling near the riverbed. Curiosity and concern pulled the ranger deeper into the wilderness that morning, with a sense of purpose that made the forest feel alive with anticipation. Every rustle of leaves and snap of a twig seemed louder than usual, as if the forest itself was alert to what was about to unfold. Suddenly, movement caught the ranger's eye. At the edge of the clearing, partially hidden by tall grass, a lioness appeared. She moved with careful precision, her body low to the ground, eyes scanning every shadow, ears flicking at every sound. The sunlight caught her tawny fur, making her look almost like a living shadow that blended seamlessly with the earth around her. But what held the ranger's attention more than anything else was the small, fragile shape she carried gently in her mouth. It was a cub, tiny and weak, with fur matted and eyes barely open. The sight tugged at the ranger's heart, a mix of awe and worry flooding in all at once. The lioness walked with purpose, her steps slow but determined. She seemed to weigh every movement, ensuring the cub was secure while scanning the area for any threats. Her gaze, sharp and alert, never left the horizon, and her muscles tensed as if ready to defend the small life she carried. There was an unmistakable urgency in her stride, a silent story of a mother's unyielding love and protection. The ranger watched quietly from a distance, careful not to intrude, knowing that any sudden movement could startle her and put both lives in danger. Time seemed to slow as the lioness moved closer to the path that led toward the rescue station. She paused occasionally, dropping her head slightly to adjust the cub, then lifting it again with the same gentle precision. The cub made soft, pitiful noises, too weak to fully cry, and the lioness responded with a low, comforting growl. The ranger could feel the tension in the air, a delicate balance between survival and compassion, nature and intervention. The scene was breathtaking, a rare moment where raw instinct and careful observation intertwined. As the lioness continued, the terrain became more challenging. The dirt path turned rocky, with scattered roots that could easily trip up an animal carrying such a fragile load. Yet she moved without hesitation, her paws placing each step carefully, her tail swaying slightly for balance. The ranger marveled at her determination, noticing how every muscle in her body worked together in harmony to achieve a single goal, the safety of her cub. It was a lesson in patience, strength, and love, all wrapped in the quiet rhythm of the morning. Birds suddenly took flight, startled by the presence of the large predator. Their wings flapped noisily, and the lioness flinched slightly but did not pause. Her focus remained unwavering. She knew her cub's life depended on reaching somewhere safe, and nothing could distract her from that mission. The ranger could feel the tension building, an invisible thread connecting them to the unfolding story of survival. It was not just a sight to witness, but a moment that demanded quiet respect and understanding. In the distance, the outline of the rescue station came into view, small and humble against the vast backdrop of the forest. The lioness' pace did not falter, even as the terrain became uneven. She had seen the path before, or perhaps sensed the safety that awaited her cub. There was a subtle shift in her movements, a mixture of hope and relief, as if she knew she was almost there. The ranger's heart raced, knowing that what was about to happen could change everything for the tiny life in her care. As she neared the station, the lioness paused one last time, placing her nose close to the cub, gently nudging it as if to reassure it that everything would be all right. The cub's weak limbs trembled, and it let out a faint whimper. The ranger held their breath, feeling the weight of the moment. This was not just another day in the forest. This was a story of courage, trust, and extraordinary lengths a mother would go to protect her child. With a final, deliberate step, the lioness approached the station door. Her body tensed, eyes scanning for any danger, yet her movements remained smooth and controlled. She lowered the cub gently to the ground, careful not to hurt it. For a moment, both mother and cub stayed still, as if assessing the strange, new world around them. The ranger could feel the intensity of their connection, a silent communication that transcended words. The forest seemed to hold its breath, witnessing this act of raw, instinctive love. Then, slowly, the lioness stepped back, her eyes never leaving the cub. She seemed to understand that help was available, that the humans at the station could provide what she could not. Yet, she did not run or flee. She simply watched, protective and vigilant, ready to react if necessary. The ranger felt a deep sense of awe and responsibility. They were now part of a story far bigger than themselves, a story of life, survival, and trust in the most unexpected form. In those quiet moments, the forest held an almost sacred stillness. The sunlight filtered through the trees, casting a warm glow on the tiny cub and its fearless mother. Every detail, the gentle rise and fall of the lioness' chest, the faint tremble of the cub, the distant call of a bird, felt magnified, as if nature itself was celebrating this rare and beautiful act of maternal devotion. The ranger knew that the coming hours would be critical. The cub's survival depended on careful attention, and the mother's instinct had brought them to the right place. But for now, all that mattered was this moment, frozen in time, a story unfolding naturally in the heart of the forest. The lioness remained a silent sentinel, a guardian whose love and courage were beyond measure, showing that even in the wild, there is a tenderness that is deeply human in its emotion and intent.